The new Congress convenes this week. There is no doubt many battles ahead for both sides. The Center for Urban Renewal and Education, or CURE, is in Washington, ready to work to help hard-hit communities, but says it sees things differently from the traditional efforts of the Congressional Black Caucus. So, Reverend McCoy, you say for the past 15 years, the left has used the NAACP and the Black Caucus for its own purposes.
Well, it absolutely has. And unfortunately, while there's been a lot of people that have caused to go into the Congressional Black Caucus over time and really tried to maybe initially do some good service, right now they're just being pawns in a hand that really is not playing well to the Black community at all, I don't think. And really you have to look at what principles are going to work in some of these communities that really need to see change. And that's why we're advocating for things like the opportunity zones, the urban revitalization issues that are happening with the current administration, and really trying to see what can make a difference in our communities for the long term, not just a political mantra. Because right now, the CBC is just poised to just revenge and to take attack back to the current president's administration.
How is CURE's agenda, you would say, different?
We already know it doesn't take a brain surgeon like a Dr. Carson to figure out in our communities, we are looking around, and many of these CBC leaders who have been elected for years have been leading these some of these urban areas that have had blight for some time, and they said, you know, how can we change it? If we're looking at CURE, we're looking at fighting poverty and restoring dignity through faith, freedom, and personal responsibility. We believe that that's a message that we carry, and that we want to make sure that we are doing that. We believe it's a collaborative effort between the church, the government, as well as private businesses, and trying to figure out how can we best bring what I would call these conservative principles as well as these values and merge them together to see real change in our communities across the country.
When it comes to this administration and previous, do you think the president's policies have done more for Black communities?
I look at it, when you sign up to be president, and when you look at our communities across the country, it's not an easy task to say, hey, we're going to just totally change this and make all of this different and make it great again. I think it's a hard, arduous task to say, what can we do? And if you look at it, I think he's given the most thought to it. I think even in his current, when he did his inaugural speech, he talked about it quite honestly. It hurt a lot of people when he talked about it because it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't the words that you want to hear somebody say, well, you know, what do you have to lose? Your communities are like war zones anyway. But if you go to some of our communities, anybody who's Black would understand that's kind of true. Some of those areas that we live in and we work and play and understand, there's a reason why they look that way. If I look at Baltimore City, which I know intimately and know well, if I look at Chicago, which we just did a summit there not too long ago, you know, the Uber driver, they were saying, look, are you sure you want to go in this community? But there are people that are concerned about the community and live there and then want to see change. We'll be back there again soon. I think with the current policy that he's worked on, obviously the economic conditions and the wealth creation, I shouldn't say wealth creation, but those income gaps have begun to lower. The typical GDP and the percent of growth has only been about 2% for years. And it has not gone over 3% in quite some time. This current president has actually gotten our growth and our economy growth at over 3%, which means,
yeah. Let me ask this question because we're just about out of time. What is the greatest need now for these communities?
Oh, well, I'm going to say it. If I'm talking to CBN, I'm going to say we need prayer. But I say that honestly, because we need to see things change. People's lives have to have hope in them. And our deal is about breeding hope via policy, because we know if you change laws, you change lives. But the major thing is that we got to see hope being restored in these communities. We really need to see a great awakening, which I've been talking about for years. But also at the same time, we need to see that collaborative issue of the church, the communities, the pastors, the leaders, and the business coming together to say, look, we're going to get over the political lefts and rights and centers, and we're going to try to move this thing forward because people's lives hang in the balance. I look at it, oftentimes we said years ago, you know, the next Black doctor and maybe cure for cancer is in these communities. The next person who can really change the plight of America are probably living in some of these communities. And we need to give hope in those communities so that we can make them livable again, as according to Isaiah.
Reverend Derek McCoy with the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, thank you so much for your time.